So welcome to my review of SNK's 40th anniversary collection. And this has been brought over by NIS. I want to thank them for the review copy. And this was a game, or collection of games, that I've been looking forward to for a while because I'm a huge old school SNK fan. You know, all the way into the Neo Geo, but I played all the other games that, you know, they brought out to America back in the day. And there's a lot of really amazing games. And so what do we have here? This is a collection of 13 games. Some of them have only ever been released in Japan. They have the console version, and if it had an arcade version, the arcade version is there as well. And I gotta get into this. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of games here. How are they? Well, this collection is realistically for older gamers out there or people that are interested in SNK's past history. That's who it's for. So for myself, this is of great interest to me because I like a lot of those older games. Some of the games I played for the very first time, and I'm going to talk about some moments that I had that I could not believe with some of the games. So let's just start off at the beginning. So you start off with the option menu. You can pick any kind of language you want to pick. And then we get into a really cool feature that I didn't know that was going to be on here, a museum mode. So it highlights all of these games history. So it'll tell you the year it came out, and then it will show you all of the artwork of this game, the instruction manuals, everything behind the scenes. It'll give you entire write-ups about what the game was and on what console it was released on, or it'll tell you about its arcade version. And I just poured over this stuff because I'm a really old school anime fan, and to see some of that old artwork, especially games like Athena that were an arcade game originally, it is so awesome to see the original marquee artwork. And there's something charming about the old SNK artwork. You can see that it's so hand done. Nowadays, a lot of the artwork is done in Photoshop in an incredible way. Back then, a lot of the artwork was completely just done in cell coloring, and it just looks really rough and old and kind of sometimes amateurish, and that's what gives it its charm. So I really enjoyed some of the history lessons of these games and seeing some of that old artwork. And for every single game as well in the museum is the original soundtrack, so you can listen to all of the music from all of these older games, and some of them are really neat. Like for me, when I had it in portable mode and I was walking around, I could play my favorite song from Crystalis, which is an old action RPG released on the NES, and I just loved listening to that old music. Yeah, I love that song. That really takes me back to the good old days. I remember when Crystalis first came out, I was 16 years old, and me and my friend Andrew down the street, we loved that game. We played it all the time. It's a really, I'm going to get to it, but I think it's a really underappreciated action RPG on the NES. So what are some options you can do in this game? There's filters, there's arcade filters. So you can put the game to full screen. You can get rid of the borders, which is always good. And here's a crazy thing. You can just go into watch mode. I only discovered this at the end, and it was I'm such an old school guy that to see this in video games now is really weird. But you can just hit play on it, and the game will play itself. And you can just spectate. You can just sit and watch the game play itself. Say you're having trouble with a certain game. Let it play itself. You can see how you can get past certain sections of the game, and you can fast forward through that. So you can go like to later sections of the game. So with Crystalis, I could see the very end of the game just by watching it, by not even playing it. So there is that option if you would want to. So say you want to just watch the game, you can do that and see its later levels. And one thing that I really appreciate in here is the rewind feature. This should be in every single old school collection of video games. So if you're going through a level and say you're playing a shooter level and you die, you can rewind and just go backwards to where you originally made that mistake. And that is so handy and so wonderful, and an incentive to play some of these older games, because some of them have kind of like old controls and they can be a little frustrating. So that feature is very welcome. So let's talk about the 13 games on here and how they stand up and kind of what they're about. We start off with Alpha Mission. This is an overhead shooting game. Very simplistic. It was the beginning of the Alpha Mission series. And I like it. It's old school. Understand that a lot of these games are old school going in. This is not fancy, unbelievable modern day graphics. This is from a different time and a different era. And for this type of game, it's totally fine. Now we get into one of my favorites on the collection. I have a few favorites here. One of my favorites, Athena. Now I've talked about it in Games That I Hate episodes that I got it on the NES. I got Athena on the NES. And I hated this game. I absolutely hated the game, but I have it on my shelf. I love it because I hate it so much. It's a very nostalgic memory for me. What was neat was I got to play the original arcade version on here that was in Japanese arcades from a very different era. And it's a side-scrolling action game where you're just fighting wave after wave of enemies. You're getting a little overwhelmed. And you're in a bikini, which is too funny, and you upgrade and you're able to get different helmets and shields and swords and weapons, and it's very repetitive. It's very, very hard at times with the amount of enemies coming at you, but there's a certain amount of charm. This was a big hit in arcades. That's why it was brought to the Famicom and to the NES, and that's where I originally played it. Another highlight here, I was just talking about it a second ago, Crystalis. I love this game. You know, when you think about Zelda on the NES, think about Crystalis as well, because it's up there as, I think, one of the best action RPGs on the system. Bar none. Bar none. This was a great system where you could level up your sword. There was a lot to explore. It's an overhead action RPG, and you can go through dungeons and buy weapons and items and all that good stuff. Talk to townspeople. Great old school RPG stuff happening here. I love this game. I've always loved it. I got a copy up on my shelf here, and it's nice to have it in portable mode. That's what I was really enjoying with this one. Next up, we have Guerilla War, and this is an overhead action game, a shooting game. You know, it's funny, SNK did so many of these style of games in its history. They did so many of them, and especially at this time. And Guerilla War's okay, it's not bad. You're just fighting wave after wave of enemies that are coming down on the screen, and you can shoot any different direction that you want to shoot. It's alright, it's not bad, and that kind of brings us into another point of history with SNK, the Ikari Warriors. This was a huge, big hit in Japan. Oh my god, they got all 3 games here. And I liked playing them again. It was like going back to the arcades again. Ikari Warriors. If you ask anybody who's my age about Ikari Warriors and they're a video game fan, everybody will know that. Because you all played it in the arcades back then. And they got 1 to 3 here. And you can play with a friend. It's an action game again, overhead, very much like Guerilla War. As I said, SNK did a lot of these games, especially when they went into the future. And they did the Shock Troopers series. But I like these style of games. They're part of history that we'll never see again. You'll never see games like this get made again. And it was really fun visiting Ikari Warriors again. And especially even playing the NES version of the game I hate the most, which is the second one. The arcade game is great, but the NES version, which I got to play, I was laughing at again. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how much I dislike this game. And we get into another overhead shooting style game, and that is Iron Tank, where you're in a tank fighting wave after wave of enemies. As I say, this stuff is old school stuff. It's not breaking the mold here. It's exactly what you expect it to be, and it's kind of fun. Now, P.O.W. This is a game that I really enjoyed revisiting. I used to play this in the arcades all the time. This is kind of what I grew up with. If anybody wants to know why I was such a big fan of this stuff, like I would go to the arcades and play P.O.W. with my friends, and we'd be like, look at these graphics, and it's a side view action beat 'em up style of game. You can get guns in it, and you can get knives in it, or you can just beat the hell out of people with your fists. And there were all a lot of war games back then. I think that they thought like everybody loved war games, and you know what? It was fun. These games were fun. Remember all the like Operation Wolf games and all that? When you think back, there was so many war games in this history time. Prehistoric Isle. Now they came out with a sequel years later. And I've never had a chance to play this original one, and it's a side view shooting game, and you're just fighting, this is the funny bit, dinosaurs. Yes, you're in a dinosaur island, and you're fighting wave after wave of dinosaurs, and it's a lot of fun. It's cool to see the old sprite graphics and what they were doing there, and I kind of had a bit of fun with this one. Now we get to this one, Psycho Soldier. I have never played this game before. This is a semi-spiritual sequel to Athena. And what is interesting is it is a side view action game, but what makes it so interesting is it has singing in it. Listen to this.
Athena's name is magic, mystery, glad to see. Her crystal is the answer, fighting fair to keep us free. She's just a little girl with power inside, burning bright. You better hide if you are bad. She'll catch you. She'll read your mind and find if you believe in right or wrong. Fire, fire, Psycho Soldier.
I never said the singing was good. I just said it was there. I was playing this and I was listening to it and I'm like, I've never played this game, but why do I know this song? Why do I know this song? And then it hit me. It was strange. All of a sudden I went back to 1994 and I realized this is a song they used in King of Fighters 94. I had no idea about that. I just knew I was recognizing the song again, and I had this really weird moment. And that's what one of the fun bits I had with this collection was realizing, I'm like, this is a song from King of Fighters 94 that was originally from Psycho Soldier. And I'm like, this is fucked up. I didn't even know that this arcade game had real singing in it. That's so strange from that time. It was really one hell of a trippy moment. Now we get into an action kind of beat 'em up fighting game, and that is Street Smart. From anybody from back in the day will remember Street Smart, and it's here again, and you're just fighting wave after wave of enemies and in these big street brawls in different locations. And the battles last for a very long time till you beat your opponent. But I had a lot of fun. As I say, for me personally, I get to revisit the past, and to visit Street Smart again was really unusual. I haven't thought about that game in so many years. Now we get to TNK III, Tank 3. What do you think it is? Yes, it's another tank-style overhead shooting game. It is what it is. I just kind of played around with it for a little bit. Then they went really old school with Vanguard, a side view shooting game. A game that I've never played, and I played this for a bit. It was all right. Now, that is the 13 games that come with this collection. But here's something interesting. December 11th, there's DLC. No paid DLC, free DLC. I love saying things like that. It always makes me so happy to say that. And that comes with another 11 games. Yes, so there's all these old SNK arcade games, including Time Soldiers, one of my favorites, and December 11th, you can download them all for free and experience those, some more SNK history. So I really appreciated that, and I can't wait to get that December 11th, but I'm so happy that we get some DLC that's free for a change. So what is this all about? What do I think about this collection? For modern gamers, for younger people now, I don't know if you're interested in the history of SNK, this great old school company, you might find this fascinating. Some of these games are very, very addicting, and some of them are really good. I would recommend Crystalis. It's an excellent, as I say, action RPG. It's good for the history lesson here. It's even better for people who are a little bit older, who remember SNK from back in the day and want to experience some of these games again on their Nintendo Switch. This is a really great way to do it. And I really had a lot of fun this weekend playing and revisiting some of these games from my childhood as well. And just know it's not a full price game, and it does come with free DLC. Take that into consideration if you're interested in a bit of a history lesson. So anyways, guys, until next time.